Welcome and good afternoon. We are calling this meeting to order at 4 p.m. Catherine, are we going to do roll call right now for a study session?
Absolutely. Let's see. Student Trustee Soto Gonzalez.
Here.
Thank you. Trustee Rios.
Here.
Trustee DeLuna. Let me see if she's on the other side. Okay, so we'll mark her as absent. Trustee Baldini. And I do not see him present yet. Trustee Goff.
I'm here.
Thank you. Trustee Baker. I saw you here earlier.
Here.
There you are. And Trustee Dodd.
Here.
Okay, thank you.
Catherine, do we have any public comment?
I have not received general public comment at this time.
Do you have any participants in the waiting room raising their hands?
No, and we have 11 people in the waiting room, and they're here to listen to the study session. And there may be questions if we have time over on that side.
Wonderful. Well, welcome everyone. I'll close the public comment of this portion for the study session. And our counsel, Eileen O'Hare Anderson, will you kick us off? Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me, Trustee Dodd. Good afternoon, trustees. I was asked to come and talk to you about board policies and administrative procedures, and I'm happy to do that. Here's our agenda. We're going to talk very briefly about foundational concepts, cover the differences between board policy and administrative procedures. The district subscribes to the Community College District of California's template service, their policy and procedure template service. I'm going to talk about that very briefly. Then we're going to talk about the status of the district's board policies and administrative procedures. I've reviewed them, the status of them, not the content of them. And I have a few recommendations. And then lastly, we will talk about an ongoing review cycle and the accreditation issues that the ongoing review cycle brings up. All right. So with that, let's jump off. All right. The board's responsibility is to set the direction of the district. The board does that in large part by setting the policy of the district. So the board is setting direction in board policy administration through its CEO, the district's CEO, the superintendent president in the case of your district, sets the procedure that implements those policies. How do we do the policy that the board has set? How do we implement that? That is what a procedure is. The policies and procedures are drafted to comply with state and federal statutes and regulations. So there are 28 or 29 codes in the state of California. Some of those have implications for board policies. There are certainly federal statutes that apply, such as the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. There are many more. We draft the board policy and administrative procedures to comply with those. Then lastly, we consider accreditation standards, the ACC-JC, Accrediting Commission for Community and Junior Colleges. ACC-JC is the accrediting body. We treat those accreditation standards as if they were a statute. They truthfully in law don't have quite the weight of a statute, but they certainly do for a community college. If you run afoul of an accreditation statute, you are in danger of losing accreditation or some type of show cause or sanction, and we don't want that. So we treat accreditation standards as if they were a statute and honor them, hold fidelity to those, align to those, just as we would provisions of the education code. All right. So Board policies set very general goals and practices. What are we doing? What are our goals? What are our values? These are the voice of the board. They are necessarily, because they are the voice of the board, they're necessarily at a 30,000-foot view. They are the responsibility of the board. The board adopts board policies. They require official adoption. In many districts, they have a very formal two-reading process. Policies come to the board for a first reading and then for a second reading. That gives members of the public, some constituency groups, the opportunity to review them, to make comments. Normally, policies are adopted at the second reading. Administrative procedures are a plan of action to implement those policies. How are we going to do it? These are where we find the details. The administrative procedures are the responsibility of the CEO. The CEO is responsible to the board for creating and implementing administrative procedures. The CEO, in turn, in your case, the superintendent president, seeks consultation from the various constituencies in drafting and reviewing the administrative procedures. While the board certainly may look at the administrative procedures and should know in general what is in the administrative procedures, those are not your documents. The board generally does not approve administrative procedures. Those are the responsibility of the superintendent president. So I said that you subscribe, the district subscribes to the League's policy and procedure template service. As it happens, Liebert Cassidy Whitmore partners with the League to maintain and provide legal review for the policy and procedure service. And that's a project that I've been responsible for many, many years now. So I can speak with some knowledge as to how the service works. The philosophy of the service is that we provide the minimum language that is legally required. Where in the code it says the board shall or the board must, we create a board policy to implement that. But we do not provide very many policies or templates that are not legally required. We are continually reviewing the templates for compliance with changes in the law. We bring out updates twice a year, spring and fall. Typically, those are in October and April, although I'm not going to tell you we've done that every year. Sometimes we're a little late with one of those, but by and large, we get them out in April and we get them out in October. And those reflect any changes in the preceding 6-ish months. And those are distributed to usually one person at the district who in turn sends them out for review and implementation. The benefits of up-to-date policies and procedures, well, it assures that we're operating within our mission and our role, and that we are aligned to all of that, aligned to the code. It addresses the current needs of the organization. These are organic documents. They are changing. They are not static. They shouldn't be static. We should be reviewing them on a continuous review cycle. We'll talk about that in a minute. An important role of the policies and procedures is to provide evidence for the accreditation teams and other external evaluators, such as the Board of Registered Nursing, the Board of Pharmacy, BAR, Bureau of Auto Repair, POST, if you have a police academy, as I seem to recall you do. So there are policies, external evaluators who look to our board policies. and as well as meeting our legal requirements. There are many templates that are not very prescriptive. There's more range for variation. Those are indicated in the templates. There are the templates themselves note when there is some variance, when there are elections or decisions to be made. For instance, in the Public Records Act template, there is a place to decide who is going to be the district officer who responds to Public Records Act requests. What is the cost for per page copies for public records? Where there are options or decisions to be made, those are called out very clearly. And it also clarifies who's responsible. There are many places in the templates where it says designate authority here. Who is the Title IX officer? Who is the responsible district officer for processing discrimination and harassment complaints, things like that. So it allows rigorous review and calls to your attention where there are decisions that need to be made or options that you can elect. The templates are organized into 7 chapters. You see them here. I won't read them to you. They're of varying lengths. There are a number of templates in each chapter. Altogether, there are, I believe, 401 templates in all of these chapters. That includes both board policies and administrative procedures. That's a lot of documents, and it's a lot of things to keep straight. So we talk about consultation, collegial consultation, participatory governance. One of the ways, one of the entities that participates in that process is the Academic Senate. I was asked to discuss the Academic Senate particularly. The Senate is a body formed pursuant to the Title V regulations to make recommendations to the administration and to the board with regard to academic and professional matters. Academic and professional matters are then defined. They're referred to as 10+1. Anybody who's been around community colleges for any length of time has heard the phrase 10+1. It is the academic, that is the very definition of academic and professional matters. And it includes things such as curriculum, degree and certificate requirements, grading policies. I won't bore you with all of them, but it is things that are uniquely within the expertise and knowledge base of the faculty. They're found in the Title V regulation that I've cited for you here on this slide, 53200. There are other bodies that have input, including exclusive representatives. Those are the unions. That's the technical term for a union. They are the exclusive representatives, so your faculty union, your classified union. There is a classified senate. We talked about the academic senate, but there is also a classified senate. Student government has the right of input on certain policies and procedures as well. And then in addition, administration certainly has input into how things actually function. And members of the community, voters, your constituents, can have input into what can or should be in a policy, and to a lesser extent, what should be in a procedure. So I reviewed at a fairly non-specific level the status of your policies and procedures. I don't want to mislead you. I have not reviewed the content of your policies and procedures. That would take quite some time. But I looked at where you are with the process. There are a number of policies and procedures that in the template service that have just not been enacted. There are a few that appear to be significantly out of date. There are 10 board policies that are not enacted and appear to still be in draft. And there are over 100 procedures that are either not approved, just not in effect yet, or are significantly out of date. This indicates that the review process that you have in effect now is not functioning well. There are significant accreditation ramifications for this. One of the things that accreditation teams ask for when they come to visit is, show us your policies and procedures. Show us your policy and procedure on student records. Show us your policy and procedure on accreditation. One of the procedures that I noted is not in effect is your procedure on accreditation. I think that might raise an issue for the accreditation team. I'm going to press my luck and try to switch screens. I am not the most technologically savvy person, but I'm going to try. All right. Are you now looking at
Index of board policies and administrative procedures?
Thank you very much, Trustee Dodd. That's exactly what I wanted to have happen. This is a list of all of the templates. I want to move through it, but I don't want to make anyone motion sick. So the yellow ones, the ones that are highlighted in yellow, are templates that have an accreditation standard associated with them. There is a requirement somewhere in the accreditation standards that we have a process for selecting our CEO, a process for evaluating our CEO, board education, board self-evaluation. Those are also found in the accreditation standards. So this cross-reference is publicly available on the League's website. If you have any trouble finding it, I'm happy to send it to you. It's very helpful for your accreditation team as they are reviewing and preparing for the accreditation visit, which is upcoming. Okay, I'm going to try and go back to my slides now.
And Catherine, can we post that Excel sheet and then also Eileen's PowerPoint on board docs after we're done? No hurry, but just a note. Thank you.
All right, are you seeing my slides again now?
Yep.
I'm doing well tonight.
Yeah.
It's important that the accreditation teams will look for these policies and procedures. There's also, I want to make another note when we get to a continuous review about something accreditation teams are looking for. So I have some recommendations for you, or suggestions for you. The first is, there does not appear to be any kind of participatory governance handbook or process in place. I think that might be helpful to you. I understand that you do not use a college council model. I know that that's something Dr. Frost has been discussing. That may be helpful to you. When I was, before I came to Liebert Cassidy Whitmore, I was general counsel at State Center Community College District here in Fresno. And while I was general counsel at State Center, I updated all of their board policies from the old red binders, some of which went back to the 1970s, and implemented all of the new policy and procedure templates. So I know the pain that is involved and the huge amount of work that it is to get all of these on board through the process and get it done. I shepherded that process, and I can tell you, key to this process is, first of all, being able to track the status of all of your templates, and second, having timelines with accountability. Offer plenty of time to conduct review, but have hard deadlines for review, for comments to be back to administration, so that we can finalize and implement the templates. Absolutely, you really need to go through and ensure that you have all of the yellow highlighted templates, all of the templates with accreditation standards. Those need to be implemented as soon as humanly possible, because I promise you, the accrediting teams do look at those when they come to visit. With the understanding that, yes, we have implemented these. They're organic documents. They are living documents. There's always time to review once they're adopted. You will always be open to suggestions from the various constituencies. They are truly living, breathing documents. And then the last point I wanted to make was ongoing review cycle. That is one of the accreditation standards. To continually review your policies. As you review your policies, it only makes sense to me to also review your procedures. If an accreditation cycle is 6 years and there are 7 chapters, there's really only 6 chapters, because chapter 1 is only 2 documents. It's the mission, the name and the mission, I think. The name of the district and the mission of the district. So it's only 2 documents. They're important documents, to be sure, but there are only 2 of them. You can take a chapter a year. That's the way many districts ensure their continuous review. They review 1 chapter every year, and by the end of a 6-year cycle, they've gone through every chapter. Some districts do 1/6 of each chapter every year. I get that. That's just take the number of policies and procedures in, for example, chapter 3, and each year you review 1/6 of that number. Involve constituent groups in review. That goes without saying, but yet if we didn't say it, we would be negligent in not pointing that out. Many districts allow the superintendent president's office to make the changes to legal references. Sometimes we find a regulation or a statute has been repealed or renumbered, and it's just a change to either add or subtract or change a legal reference. Sometimes we find typos. I know no one believes that we ever let a document out with a typo, but it does happen. Sometimes we just clarify language. So those kinds of updates and non-substantive edits, if you allow the CEO the authority to make those changes, it will help keep things up to date and the updates moving more smoothly. As soon as you have your documents approved, upload them to your website and send out an email to your all staff email address. Today we uploaded the board policy 2435 regarding evaluation of the CEO. Please look, it's available for review at this link. And I hit on this earlier, careful tracking is very, very important, as is the accountability and the deadlines. The other thing I want to mention, and I should have put a bullet on this slide about it. I'm aware of at least one district that had an accreditation finding because although they had properly reviewed their board policies every 6 years, there was no evidence of it. So I would suggest that as you review your board policies, you add a reviewed date, a last reviewed date. So you review the name of the district. Well, by golly, the name of the district has not changed, so we don't make any change to that board policy, but we add a reviewed date so that we can show the accreditation team, yes, we did, we reviewed it. Here's the date. It's reflected on the document itself. I was shocked that an accreditation team actually made a negative finding. on that basis. Some resources available for you. The Community College League's website is there. The Chancellor's Office, the AAUP has some good information. I should have added my website. We have some good information as well. Happy to send that to you. And that ends my presentation. We have time for questions. Are there questions from the board?
And I don't know if this is necessarily for you, Eileen, but, or if we even want to spend much time on answering it, but what is the specific reason, I guess, as to why we have, what was it, the 10 BPs and how many APs that are just pending, circulating? And I don't know, Dr. Frost, if you have been able to get in on that, and if I'm taking us into the weeds, Jeff, but tell me. I'm just curious why we're so behind.
I'll just be brief because in the interest of time, and I realize this, some people will disagree with this, but in my experience, the college has a very cumbersome process. I believe the president's office holds some responsibility for not following through on documents that were shared and reviewed and went through the mutual agreement process, and then they were not acted on. At the same time, I understand there are procedures that were reviewed by the Council of Presidents, went back out, and for whatever reason, the follow-through did not occur. And so, participatory governance can be super complicated, or it can be relatively straightforward and simple. Unless you're a large, wealthy college with a lot of resources and can pay a lot of people to spend time tracking this stuff, it's in your interest, in my advice, to design something simple and straightforward so we can focus on teaching and learning with most of our time.
Thank you, Dr. Frost.
That's hand up, sorry.
Yeah, please go ahead. Thank you both.
So while I think Kyle had a really good question, I want to know, number one, how quickly can we get this cleaned up and move forward, get these published, get them out there, and how quickly can we clean up this process so then we don't enter this situation again? So I'm wondering, is that something that the board can direct our interim president? Is that something that we have to take as a future agenda item? How do we get this done and give the authority to our interim president to get this done in a timely manner? So I don't know if that's a question for Eileen or Jeff or Dr. Frost. I'm not sure who can answer that, but what's the procedure to give him the authority to get this done?
Well, the item on the agenda right now is a study session, so it's not agendized for action today.
Okay.
It's at least not in this item. I don't believe it's on anywhere else in the agenda for action, but the board can certainly express its feelings about the situation, and I'm confident that Dr. Frost will understand that as direction, and you can also place it on the agenda at the very next meeting for formal action.
Yeah,
Right.
that's what I was thinking, Trustee Goff, too. And we have that in terms of our board goals, which I know Dr. Frost that's kind of his checklist and things that he can refer to back, every single day. What did I do today? So yeah, that's one piece. I think in terms of establishing timelines, you talk about collegial consultation. I'm more focused, I guess, on board policies, trying to understand exactly, because typically I think the way it's been done is the past is we have it from our colleagues at the Academic Senate, and we wait for specific edits for their and their recommendations. It goes through certain procedures before it actually gets to the board. So it's not actually the board drafting the policy. we're seeing it really for the first time without really any sort of meaningful input before it's created. And I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts about that kind of procedure. And ultimately, I anticipate would adopt policies, but your perspective would be helpful on adopting that, a new policy regarding BPs.
So there is a template about developing board policies and administrative procedures. I believe it's 24, it's either 2410 or 2510. I can never remember.
2410. Yeah, and ours is pretty broad. There's not much level of detail there.
It is not uncommon for the board to receive a draft of a board policy that someone on staff, one of your administrators most likely, has created. So that is fairly normal, and it's usually been through some amount of collegial consultation by the time you see the draft.
Sure. And then so if those policies are hanging there for, I'll just use an arbitrary number, 6 months, when let's just say we have a policy in place that prohibits, it's a timeline of 3 months or something like that. We're not required, there's no requirement that we need to wait until we actually get those comments back.
No. The requirement is that the consultative bodies, the exclusive reps and the senates and the ASG have the opportunity to timely provide input.
Okay, Trustee Goff, and I think you guys, if we could maybe just we'll go to a little before 4:35, and then we'll move into the normal meeting. But I just think this is important. Trustee Goff.
I just wanted to ask, we have 10 BPs and 100 plus APs that are not approved or out of date. Given the language that you suggest, Eileen, that says, with understanding the district will continue to review and take input, can we go ahead and publish those, move forward with all of those, with the understanding that this wording will be part of them, so we are in compliance and we can move ahead on those that kind of bubble up and really become the ones that we find critical?
Yes, there is. So collegial consultation takes two forms, and I could spend quite a lot of time on this, so I want to be very sensitive to your timing. It can take two forms. Rely primarily on the advice of the Senate or reach mutual agreement with the academic Senate. Mm-hmm. There are I'm looking for a note I sent myself. Let me find that.
So can I just ask, if the academic Senate and the board do not agree, can the academic Senate prevent us from posting a board policy?
So in certain circumstances, no. So okay. Where there are policies or procedures or events that require immediate action that have legal implications, I'm looking for the language. I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Compelling was, I remember from
yes.
that one. Compelling financial reasons, maybe?
Compelling financial reasons, legal implications. The board can act where it has those kinds of implications. I'm so sorry, I'm trying to multitask. There we go.
If you're looking at the Title V language, exceptional circumstances and for compelling reasons, or expose the district to legal liability or cause substantial fiscal hardship. Okay. The reason why I'm so aware of this is because there's classic language that the CEO offers to the academic Senate in this case when there is disagreement, so they understand why there was the compulsion to act. So we're legally, address the issue in procedure, even as we may continue to discuss it and reach mutual agreement at a later time.
Exactly. That's right. What I'm wondering.
What Title V says is, in those cases where there is legal liability or substantial financial hardship, which could be raised by an accreditation standard issue, then the governing board can act after making a good faith effort to reach agreement. So you can't simply ignore the Senate, but where you are unable, where you've made a good faith effort and you cannot come to agreement, you are still able to act.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Thank you.
Eileen, thank you so much. I guess just going in, we're at 4:35 right now. I'm trying to think about maybe we can circle back on, follow-up questions that maybe the board has and that you guys could circulate to Dr. Frost. And maybe, over a period of week can collect everyone's questions, and maybe we can, refer back to that at a later date, that Eileen could have more time to research and provide more thorough responses to, if that works for Dr. Frost and you, Eileen.
Absolutely. I'm at your disposal.
I think it'd be great for the college community too, Jeff, to have FAQs on this topic. I mean, that would be really helpful. I probably wish I would have thought of that one.
That's a good idea.
Because we can definitely, we want to post that. We don't want there to be confusion. We waste time and emotion when we have better things to spend our time on. So.
Okay. Well, thank you guys. Anything? Sorry, Eileen, did you have one more thing to add?
Nope.
Wonderful to have you here. Thank you for joining and taking the time.
Okay. Just real quick, did we decide on what's the best process? Do we do this through committee? Like, how do we get these expedited? And
I think we could talk about that at our. We could talk about it, I think, in terms of agendizing this in light of, item 17 and 17.1. We could also talk about this at future agenda item requests. So let's maybe just table it to that. Is that okay, Trustee Iverson? Thumbs up. Cool. Well, now close the study session.